What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the College Basketball Conference Tournament Betting Preview Part 5. I'm Stuckey, and joining me today is none other than the one and only Matty Cox of the Three-Man Weave. Today we are going to cover the ACC, the Mountain West, the MAC, talk some action, and then we'll touch high level on the American. Also get Jim and Kai's thoughts on the next two episodes, part 6 and 7, which should be out shortly if they're not already, just because there's no bracket out. There's some games today. There's no odds out. So just get high level thoughts. I'll also touch on anything that I like in first round matchups or anything that pops up differently once those odds and bracket are out in tomorrow's episode, which I'll be doing with what we record on Monday with Greg and Mike. We'll cover the remaining conference tournaments that start mid to late next week. So yeah, by Monday, late Monday night, you should have all the conference tournaments covered. Maddie, it's the best time of the year. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it. I've been a Scrooge in the past about conference tournaments. I'm trying to change my tune. So I'm trying to embrace them, embrace the chaos, as we've already seen.
You're the guy that just says, "Oh, well, we're not going to, we don't
like the
reward
European,
the best
like
teams."
we should do it like the premier, the EPL. Best teams should all be there. Let's stack the deck, which is why I think I'm glad the Sun Belt Tournament of Death format is gaining some traction. I hope more and more leagues pick that up. That's what we need.
So you're not. I assume you're not a big fan of
the MAC. No, I'm not.
Which we're going to talk
certainly
about.
Not. Although this year, if there's one year where it's like, who the hell's actually, that much better? I guess Akron kind of has been, but we'll talk about that. I actually don't think they're as dominant as they've shown so far this year.
I agree. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the big boys. We'll start in the ACC, where Duke had a major run late against UNC to get the number one overall seed in the ACC tournament. They'll have a number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament as well. It would have been funny if Duke lost that game and they would have had a 1 seed in the tournament and a 3 seed in the ACC tournament. Right. But this tournament will take place in Charlotte. First round games on Tuesday, championship on Saturday. The top 4 teams get a double bye into the quarters on Thursdays. That's Duke, Wake Forest, Louisville, and Clemson. And then you have the 5 teams, the next 5 teams, Georgia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina, Stanford, and SMU receive single byes to the second round. The bottom 3 teams didn't make it. Sorry, BC, NC State, and Miami. The other teams that did make it that will play in the first round are Notre Dame, Pitt, Virginia Tech, Cal, Florida State, and Syracuse. So Duke is a big favorite here. Looking at one book, they are minus 330 to get it done. Louisville plus 450, Clemson plus 550. And then then it just gets into long shot territory. You have North Carolina is 22-1. Oddly enough, Wake Forest is 55-1. Yeah, they have to play one less game than North Carolina, who they would face in the quarterfinals.
Right.
Market kind of showing you lack of respect for the Demon Deacons, who were corpse-like down the stretch.
I think that's the one place I'd go. Nothing really jumps out. That just because the fact, you're not looking at anything from 10 to 15, right? There's just no way from a future standpoint. We can maybe talk about some first round matchups there, but I think maybe Wake, right? At least against Duke, they showed, they made 2 runs on them. It's like we crown these ACC teams that make 12-2 runs on Duke. That's worthy of a Medal of Honor. But any chance Duke loses, I think Wake maybe has a prayer there. But I didn't like anything else in terms of value, like Stanford or SMU. Or UNC. I don't like Stanford playing cross country. Honestly, I know it's in Charlotte. That's just kind of a tough spot. You got to think there'll be a pretty big Carolina contingent. So yeah, pretty easy pass for me on a lot of these futures. But the Wake thing did stick out. 50-1, 60-1, maybe, but ultimately nothing.
Yeah, Stanford paper tiger. I mean, I like Renault and Blake's, but they're 350th in away from home metric. They have one win outside of California.
Yeah.
And they somehow won by 1 at UNC at the buzzer. That's it. So, yeah, when I look at this bracket,
SMU with Boopy back, maybe? I don't know, but yeah.
No. Do you want to talk about a paper tiger? That's SMU. They are against the top 75. They're 0-8. Their defense is ranked 272nd. Yeah. Overall, they're ranked 163rd. In all the other games, 22-1. They're a top 40 team. They've just demonstrated that they cannot beat the top teams. And in order to win this, they'd have to beat Florida State or Syracuse. Florida State just beat them. Then they'd have to beat Clemson, then Louisville, then presumably Duke. It's not happening.
No,
I don't see it.
No chance.
I actually would, if I was to bet any future in the ACC, I'd probably not. I mean, I'm probably not going to, but if I had to, I would probably bet Clemson plus 550. I have them power rated ahead of Louisville, and Louisville might not be at 100%.
Right.
So Smith, they took care of business against Stanford, but the spacing just isn't the same. The shooting isn't the same. And we did already see Clemson beat Duke. And I think that they have the best shot to do it because they're just a physical older team that's going to grind the game down, reduce possessions, right?
Yep.
Keep them out of transition. It just gives them the best chance, I think, to beat Duke. And I'm not as sold on Louisville as anybody else. Now, granted, the one thing they have working in their favor is they have Haslametric's #1 away from home metric. So they've performed well wherever they've played.
They've beaten the crap out of these bad. I think a lot of these ACC, I'm curious if you looked at the other top tier ACC away from home metrics, it feels like a lot of these bad ACC teams just have zero home court value because they've been bad. There's just no home juice. They're not in super hard places to get to, save the West Coast teams and SMU, obviously, just more of those East Coast teams. But yeah, Louisville's just been machine-esque on the road. Georgia Tech did kind of just come to mind as I'm looking at the bracket now, just because I know they've been relatively better. Slams. Yeah, they have been kind of giant. They have that, and Duke took care of them pretty easily, but they made, I think, a run in the second half again. So you could see them maybe rising. But again, health there, a big issue. They've been sort of grasping at straws for bodies down the stretch. But yeah, they have some giant slayer in them. But ultimately, I passed there.
Yeah, and Dago, great defender. One of the
he's been terrific lately too. Yeah,
rim defenders in the country. They have an interesting matchup with Virginia in the first round in the 8-9. The winner plays Duke, so maybe no one wants to win that game. But Virginia's offense is playing very well of late. Their defense is awful. Again, still Virginia wants to play slow. They beat Georgia Tech earlier this season easily, but it was an awful spot for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was coming off that triple overtime win against Clemson. Now, Georgia Tech, their transition D is awful, but Virginia won't run. Their rim D is great, but Virginia doesn't go near the rim. Virginia's half-court defense is bad. Georgia Tech's going to run a ton of pick and roll in an inefficient manner. What wins there? I don't know. Basically, I think that just comes down to can Virginia make their jumpers on a neutral court?
Right.
It's basically a good half-court O versus a good half-court D, and a bad half-court O versus a bad half-court D. I think Georgia Tech really misses McCollum.
Yeah, agree.
I don't know if he's coming back. Is he done for the year?
He's been cryptic about his situation the whole year. I assume he's out. You can't bet on him in there. I mean, without O'Brien, they don't have many bodies. And I think with Virginia, the way you bother them is you pressure them. I think Rhodey is a guy you can pressure. If you allow them to run their stuff, they can get open looks coming off screens, but with IMAC and those guys. But I think that's how you have to. I feel better about backing a team against Virginia that is more in-your-face defensive pressure-oriented. I just don't think with the lack of depth that GT has right now, and all year, they haven't forced turnovers at all. They really have. They're not a ball pressure type defense, even though they're a good rim defense, as you mentioned.
I remember watching Brody against Memphis. It looked like he never saw a press in his life. He's just throwing it like into.
They are very
stands.
matchup dependent. It seems. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see either one of those teams beating Duke. Now, North Carolina they've been an inferno lately. Like I actually believe that their lineup changes are real. Now they can't miss from three, but it's worth noting no one can miss against them either. Teams are shooting like 40% from three.
And I think they're a good shooting team, right? I think like their struggles early on were more of I think the recent boon has been pretty real on their end, for sure.
Withers has emerged too, which has been key. Some of the younger players have come on and are playing with confidence. But it has to be discouraging that North Carolina in that super slam spot. They couldn't beat Duke. Then in order to get to Duke, they're going to have to beat the winner of Notre Dame Pitt, then Wake, just to get to Duke, and then either Louisville or Clemson. North Carolina just hasn't proven that they can win these upper echelon games this year. So yeah, I have no interest in North Carolina. Looking elsewhere, just to with which teams. I mean, for Wake Forest also, they don't have any bench,
right?
Which is worth noting. They'd have to win 3 games. I mean, it's just 3 games in 3 days, but they don't have any depth. They also can't shoot. They can't rebound.
I thought so. Wake and UNC, right? So if either one of those teams beat Duke, you would think they would be not safely in the field, but like, would that put them? I don't know. I'm trying to get into some psychological, like if they beat Duke in the semis and they play the winner of the bottom half, like I could see that being sort of not a dead spot, but sort of psychologically, okay, I think we just punched our ticket. That was a big win, and Louisville or Clemson dispatched them easily. I don't know. Again, sort of an awfully loose projection, given that we probably don't see Duke losing, frankly.
Yeah. So, in which teams didn't we touch on? Florida State. They're going to start with, this is Leonard Hamilton's farewell party.
It's on Tuesday. It's a short turn. Tuesday. It's a quick turn for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they start with Syracuse. They destroyed Syracuse earlier this year. They just sped the game up. Syracuse, their offense is playing really well lately. I do have to give the Orange credit. The problem is they turn it over, and their transition D is horrible. And their defense in general is really bad. But that's basically Florida State's offense. They want to turn you over and get out in transition and run. And they carved Syracuse up in transition in that first meeting. On the other hand, Syracuse is playing much better than Florida State since February 1st. Their offense is playing really well. I have to give them credit. And the 2 other interesting first-round games, Virginia Tech, Cal. Virginia Tech's, they're just void of talent. They want to play slow. Yeah. They kind of hope for 3-point variance. They do have somehow a bunch of road wins in ACC play, which is bizarre for that team. They did beat Cal earlier this season.
Yep.
They do turn it over way too much, but I think they actually match up pretty well with Cal, because Cal's another ugly team in the ACC. When I look at this matchup, like Cal, they want to get on the offensive glass, they want to get to the line, and that's like the 2 things that Virginia Tech's defense does well. And Cal's not really going to force a ton of turnovers. Now, they are going to take away the 3 ball, but the rest of their defense is pretty weak. And then the elephant in the room is on Saturday, Cal on the road played a 4 overtime game.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going to go. It's like, so they don't go home, right? They're going right to Charlotte, I assume, after just an absolute war. That's a brutal spot. I assume they had
3 guys play over 50 minutes.
Yeah, Notre Dame too. We talk about that in a second, but the same spot, right? Like, got Pitt there, and just a brutal spot. At least Notre Dame's coming from their home gym. Cal's got to do like the double time zone, no return situation here. That does bother me.
Yeah, that's definitely
Market will bet into that. I actually think Virginia Tech takes money. Although we'll see. We'll see if I thought Lawal. Did he not get I thought he aggravated something last game. Maybe I'm wrong there, but you got to just make sure he's 100% after missing 2 games. Made his return against Clemson. Only played 24 minutes. Didn't really look that good from what I watched. So.
Yeah, Notre Dame. I got to give a lot of credit to Shrewsbury. I mean, they win a ton of close games. They're going to play really slow. They just find ways to keep games close, whether it's in double overtime, quadruple overtime, whatever. They're probably the team that gave Duke the biggest scare in ACC play. Besides,
on the road too, right?
Besides Clemson, Cameron. But in that game, I believe Shrewsbury was pretty big in that game. He had a bunch of threes.
14. Yeah, they hit 14 to 24 from 3, and Shrews had 14. Burton had 23. It's just the problem is they're so leveraged on, especially now, just Burton. And I think I think people that sort of made fun of his player of the year or freshman of the year. What did he win last year in ACC? I think all the ball knowers were quick to cite how inefficient he was and how he has some pretty glaring limitations. And I think it's just been too reliant on him. Offense. That's why he
has been good lately. I mean, he's gone for 30, 29, 24, and 43 his past 4 games. Last game, this is where Notre Dame is at. I mean, Aloco came back, which was big.
Huge.
He was big in that win. And they just needed another offensive piece besides Burton and Davis. I mean, you had Nikita Konstantinovsky play 44 minutes. What? Out of nowhere? It's 17 rebounds against Cal. So they're going to play Pitt. They already beat Pitt. Aloco didn't play in that game. Shrewsbury didn't play in that game. But this is a quick turnaround. What is Pitt? Now, Pitt, I've been saying on Twitter for 2 months that they're a corpse, which they have been. They haven't won they've been horrendous on the road, too. Now, they're only win away from home, I think, since the new year was at Syracuse by 4 in January.
With Damian Dunn, who had 10 points in 18 minutes. And I think, without him, I think they lack it's just too much on.
They miss him defensively too.
And defensively too, exactly, where they've been bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Pitt can't rebound, they're not physical, they have no rim protection, they're soft inside. Now they did have this outburst against BC where they kind of started 3 guards, made Lowe more of like a facilitator, and they started Cummings and Leggett along with him. Austin's been in a slump. I don't know. I mean, maybe does Pitt get a new lease on life here against Notre Dame? It's a tough game.
I think of all the teams that, I think Notre Dame and Pitt, these are all these teams in this slot are sort of underachievers. You can make the new lease on life bump case for. I think Pitt probably has the strongest case of those 6 teams playing on Tuesday.
Yeah, but I'm not betting any of them to win 5 games in 5 days.
Right.
That would include a win against Duke and then probably Louisville or Clemson. So, from a futures perspective, it's Clemson or nothing for me. But this looks like Duke's tournament. I mean, how do you beat Duke? So Malik Brown is back now. He made a massive
huge difference. Yep.
Going on the ball against RJ Davis defensively for his size. I mean, he's a defensive savant. And he may even made a couple threes if he's doing that. So now that they're fully healthy, how do you beat them?
It does feel like Clemson, it's easy just to look at the only games they've lost and say, oh, that's the kryptonite matchup. But I do think with Locken and that physical front line, more of a throwback front line, right? Like not athletic and bouncy, but more just true physical, older. I think Clemson's really got the ingredients. And you could argue that, maybe.
Well, and Duke is super, super talented. I mean, this offense is operating at another level. So obviously, Duke has more talent than Clemson. Duke's going to have more talent than all these teams. So you want to limit the possessions, which Clemson is going to do. It's just logical.
And Wake has been effective at that. So that's why it's like I keep going back to Wake, and I'm like, now Matt, stop it. Like that's anchoring too much to my preseason priors. I think to a point there, but Wake I think has elements of Clemson, right? They can control the pace. And they got some size up front, right? They don't have Clemson size, but Reed can be a presence when he's dialed in for sure. Maybe get a friendly whistle, get a couple of quick ones, maybe on flag. You can see the game flow, maybe giving Wake a chance. That's why I was like, I think Wake's the only thing I'd really take a look at here, features, but I didn't actually fire on that one.
Yeah, I'm a believer in Clemson for the NCAA tournament as well. They're
I agree.
I mean, this is a team. This team's better than last year.
Yeah,
because their defense is better, and right, they don't have Gerard was a liability.
Exactly. They have no holes defensively this year. And I like they can go. They can play Wiggins at like the 3. I mean, you have a 6'10" wing effectively, and when he's making shots, that's just a tough matchup. And Chase Hunter's like the ultimate. No one talks about him. Very unassuming, but certainly has some alpha dog in him. Right? He's not just like a piece. I think he's emerged as a guy, and I think that's sort of what you saw last year in the tournament. He's kind of made that his thing this year, and I'm with you. I think Clemson's a good tournament bet. I think they're going to go. I think at least round 1, maybe round 2 again. Yeah,
I think they have Final Four upside if the bracket breaks right. I mean, they almost got there last year with I think a worse version. They ran into Alabama, who made 15 or 16 threes in that game.
I think them and Louisville will be interesting to see how their top metrics inflated by just beating the crap out of these bad ACC teams. We'll find out how real those large margins of victory were next weekend for sure.
Yeah, because it is Louisville beat Clemson at home. Got to give them credit for that on January 7th. Since then, I mean, that's the only tournament team they've beat since November.
Right.
I mean, their run since January 7th is Pitt, the corpse of Pitt, Syracuse, Virginia, SMU, Wake, Georgia Tech loss, BC, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Vatech, Pitt, Cal, and Stanford. And no one can make a 3 against them either. I think they've run a bit fortunate in that department. Their offense is great. So don't get me wrong. Hepburn's been amazing. I mean, to assemble all these transfers together.
Yep.
And they even lost Pryor to injury, who I thought was going to be a key piece for them. Kelsey's done a tremendous job with them. But
and to your point, they beat UNC and Clemson during a point where I don't think they were at their – UNC now is not what UNC was at that point, right? Clemson now even I don't think was as good as Clemson was in early. So I think the schedule worked out. And obviously they didn't have to go to Duke either. So, you can – I just like Kelsey too much. I think the way they tilt the possession, tug of war in their favor is makes them immune to being a paper tiger. But I do think their schedule, you can make that case. There's just been no test at all in the last month of the year, 2 months almost.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff in the ACC. Let's move on to the one I'm most excited to talk about today. Let's talk about some action. Basic 8-team format here. The teams that don't make it, Ball State, Central Michigan, Buffalo, and Northern Illinois. Bowling Green makes it after losing in their finale because Central Michigan went down to Northern Illinois on a
beat
double overtime line drive pass that somehow went in. And Ball State was watching Bowling Green was watching in their arena, and they delayed their pressers, and they're playing with free money here, house money, going in to Cleveland where this will take place. Tournament will start on Thursday, quarterfinal games, everyone plays. Semis on Friday, championship on Saturday. Akron is the favorite. Let me pull up some updated odds here. I think I saw some for the MAC recently. Okay, Akron plus 135, Kent State plus 250, Miami of Ohio plus 450, Ohio plus 750, Toledo 30-1, Eastern Michigan 45-1, Bowling Green 45-1, Western Michigan 55-1. It is the MAC, and it's a basic 8-team format in Cleveland. So, if you wanted to take a flyer on one of these teams, I could never get mad at anybody. I will tell you that I love Kent State.
Yeah, what's your price? You just say I'm looking at like the Kent State prices right now. I just wish it was closer to 3-1.
I know.
They're charging it. They know. Yeah, I mean,
I
the problem is
can,
that
yeah, watch. I mean,
Toledo and Ohio just have not been like they've just been so dicey. Ohio's got the injuries. Toledo has been just terrible defensively. I think there's rumors that a lot of those guys are going portaling, so I wonder if there's some quit factor there. Miami's good's really good, but their bad's terrible. You know, that you could see them easily losing to Eastern Michigan. As much as I actually kind of believe in Miami a little bit, I think they have some real talent. I'm with you. It's all Kent. The question is the price right?
yeah, with Kent, I mean, the case for Kent is like I think that they should be co-favorites with Akron. I have those teams right now power rated equally,
I do
and
too.
both those teams are
maybe a half point. Yeah, I'm with you. Totally. Yep.
both of those teams are super deep. You got to win 3 games in 3 days. Akron, small team, very small team, super deep. Barry Johnson runs the show. Nate Johnson's great too, but they have a ton of different options that they can go to. They have the best offense in the league. They're fast. They can shoot. I do think their defense has benefited from some 3-point look, and they can be had inside. That's one of the keys against Kent State. I think if it is Kent State Akron, which is the most likely matchup, Kent State should have won at Akron. They had that game in the bag, and this is a different Kent State team, basically since February 1st.
Yeah,
and there's a reason for that. And since February 1st, Kent's been the best team metrics wise, and they've had the best offense. They're 106th per Torvik overall. Like at the next best in the max, like 150th. Their offense is 57th. Now it helps when they start shooting 38% from 3, but their offense is just playing a lot more confident. They made some lineup changes. Morales got hurt. He was their worst offensive player. And Kelja, they less of him, which is a good thing. Burnett and Sumlin have been great, and more minutes for them. And then same with Gillespie. And then Sullinger has really found his game and his shot, and he's kind of a difference maker. Then obviously you have your bulk inside with Davis and Hornbeak.
Hornbeak, yep.
The other thing to keep in mind is this is the best team in the league by far away from home. I don't know what this is all year long. Kent State has been horrendous at home. I mean, I was talking about this in December. I mean, you can go all the way back where they barely beat Heidelberg at home.
Yep.
So there was something.
Niagara by 3. No, yeah, it's been a weird. It's like been like an inverted home court split team. You argue it's because their style does travel well outside of home, but it just doesn't make sense how bad they've been at home. But good news is that this tournament's just to add to your Kent points. I just love that Barnett, with Barnett and Sullinger, that's what changed this team for me. It's like I always knew Sullinger was awesome. You know, he had kind of those. You know, is he a head case where he's coming back with the boomerang to rejoin the team? But with him and Barnett, like one of those two guys is going to be hot any given night, right? They both can. They're both streaky, but if you have 2 microwave guys, one of your microwaves will be working. And it gives you that outside kind of game breaking balance. But again, they don't have to make shots to win because they're so good on the glass. It gives you multiple paths to winning ugly. They can win a high scoring game. I think they can win multiple ways. It's the most versatile team clearly in this field, in this format. And if they face off with
tournament
Akron,
games usually turn into more half court games.
Exactly. And I think they're best suited to win that. And that's what Akron used to be. That was their blueprint under, the Ali Ali. And I'm like, who was the stud 4-year guy who was there for forever? Their big rim protector. Freeman,
recently?
right? Last year, who just graduated from Akron? I'm blanking on
Freeman?
Yeah, Enrique Freeman. Right. But this Akron team is like pace and space. It's a totally different team. This current Akron team might be better analytically than those teams. I don't think they're better for the record. And they're just a different type of team. They're not the type of gritty physical team that was so successful in the postseason formats the last couple of years under Gross. That's why I sort of like the fate of Akron with a team that actually is the kryptonite to them this year, much like Akron was last year. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I mean, Akron did sweep Kent, but they played the first time they played them. It was
throw it out. I'm with you. Yeah.
And since February 1st, the only 2 losses for Kent at Miami of Ohio, a game they had. They had that in the bag. They were up 7 with like a minute and a half to go, and then at Akron, they had that game in the bag, and I don't know. Psychologically, this is the team. Last year, they lost to Akron on a mistake foul with 1 second to go in the MAC championship. Got swept this year. If they get another crack at them, I think they get it done. They struggle with turnovers at time. Akron doesn't really turn you over. They can struggle with fouls. Akron doesn't really get to the line. And I think they can have them inside, and I think they're more comfortable in a half-court game. So, yeah, I think Kent is getting it done. I also don't believe in some of these other teams. Miami of Ohio, for example, they're home merchants. I mean, just look at their results, home versus away. They shoot like 40% from three at home and like 30 on the road. And they also, Suter, their leading scorer, got hurt last game.
Yep.
I don't know his status, but that's worth mentioning. Another home merchant, Ohio. Team is so much better.
Especially Ohio. Yeah, Ohio's, yeah.
And I don't know how healthy they are. They've had a ton of injuries. The three best players are A.J. Clayton, Aiden Hadaway, and A.J. Brown. Best overall players.
Yeah.
Clayton is back.
He's playing hurt, though. Yep.
But he's not, I don't think he's fully healthy. Brown hasn't played the past couple games. Hadaway's been out forever. Now, he warmed up for the first time in forever. But, I mean, he hasn't played since January 17th. So,
and by the way, Sharice Mitchell, who I know he is, he's mostly healthy, but I mean, Bowles said a month ago he was playing through stuff too. Because remember, he was out for the first few weeks, and I think he's like maybe their most important player because he's their best on-ball defender, and his efficiency offensively you can see the roller coaster, kind of indicative that he's not as. So yeah, there's a ton of kind of minor things there with Ohio, and yeah, the Miami of Ohio thing, to your point, without Suter, it's kind of a key creator for them. I do like Steele's offense. I think it's actually a good offense, but you're right. I think the home court cooking has been a big part of that.
Yeah, and they can't rebound either. And the Toledo, they have the worst defense in the league.
Yeah,
Buffalo's in this league. They're 355th. Now, I was looking at their defensive numbers, and I'm like, these can't be right the other week. 355th in adjusted defensive efficiency. Now, in the past, with Quasic teams at Toledo, this is what you come to expect. Not great defenses, but they make up for it with their offense. Right? Like, take 2 years ago, they finished when the team that lost to Michigan, what was that, in the NIT, maybe?
Yeah, that was 13. Yep, they were 5th on offense, 295th on defense. But they finished fifth in the MAC that year in defense, right? So it was all sort of relative. Usually they're relatively fine by MAC standards defensively. This year,
and their offense isn't as good either.
Right.
Their offense isn't their defense is way worse, and their offense isn't as good to even come close to making up for it. And they were on a late season swoon. Like you mentioned, there might be some other things going on. They did finish by beating a beat up Ohio team in the finale, but before then, they got blown out by Buffalo. They gave up 96 to Akron, 105 to Kent State. And if you're losing at Kent State by 40, then that's trouble. They lost to Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio. Their only win in that stretch since February was at home against Ball State by 1. So yeah, this team, they can't get stops. So no thanks on Toledo. Western Michigan, just going down the line, they're a pesky team. Willis is a good point guard. They can't shoot. What does worry me a bit about Kent is like Western Michigan almost swept Kent.
They're the only team that rebounds close to as well as Kent does because they have some size up front. They're just a volatile team. I mean, Willis is good, but he's a wild ride, man. And defensively, he can do some Olay defensive things. They're playing really, it's just been a hard team to figure out. But it's the one team, unfortunately, like Kent would probably rather have seen Eastern Michigan or Bowling Green, frankly, in their first round draw if they could probably pick. But I still think they're just the way Kent's playing, they get by there. But yeah, Western Michigan is a weird team and could potentially, I think, to your point, have some could trip up Kent if they play well.
Yeah, they're like a gnat, and they're tough to figure out. But if Kent State wins that game, they would either get Miami of Ohio or Eastern Michigan. We talked about Miami of Ohio. Eastern Michigan, their D is very, very, very bad. And their starting center left, who's been starting recently, and he only brings defense. Like, their offense gets a little bit better. Defense gets even worse.
Oh, that's Shanu?
Yeah, Shanu.
Yeah, he's important. The local beat guy was waxing poetic about him. I think he matters defensively. So yeah.
And then if he doesn't play, then his minutes go to Jihad, who is better offensively, but nowhere close to as good defensively. A lot of that's just size. They get a lot smaller inside. But their defense is bad. This is basically like the Mac DePaul. You have Nelson and Terry DePaul transfers. Christian Henry, he can fill it up at their other guard spot. But they turn it over way too much, and their defense is just really bad. And they did sweep Ohio, though, which is noteworthy.
Yeah.
Because, wait, did they? I'm sorry, they start with Miami of Ohio.
I think the EMU case is if you're just betting on, like, if you're you got to have a star that can just run real hot and carry you for a game or two. EMU kind of has that profile with Terry, right? He can go for 35 and win you a game or two. I think you have to lean into that angle if you're looking to back EMU.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I should have said EMU split with Miami of Ohio, their first opponent. They each won on each other's home courts, which is usually the case with Miami of Ohio. Toledo is the team that actually swept Ohio. Then you have Bowling Green, the 8 seed, who will play Akron. Now they've lost Trey Thomas. That's the third starter they've lost this year. I just don't know if they have enough offense to help Marcus Johnson. Akron did win the only meeting 71-68 against Bowling Green. They shot 42 threes in that game. That's like what Bowling Green wants you to do. Bowling Green playing with house money, how they got in. I don't know, maybe Akron just is hoisting threes and has a terrible shooting day. But the Bowling Green offense is not pretty.
They lack bodies too. They had a healthy Trey Thomas, and maybe if Towns had stayed healthier. I actually kind of like the Bowling Green team preseason, but they just don't have bodies right now. And I think their whole defense, their zone defense is more of a, we're not trying to deceive you. We're just trying to keep our guys fresh and out of foul trouble. Like, they don't provide it. There's no resistance defensively. But you could argue that could create a high variance type of situation. Maybe they could string a few upsets. I don't know. That's a tough one to solve for me.
All right. So ultimately, it's not the best price. I'm going to shop around. There's not many books with prices out right now. But I told myself, this would be like Kent? The one exception. I'm betting Kent.
Yeah,
Kent's
I need to do some
money
line rollover scenarios juxtaposed to my to like 2 to 3 to 1 with Kent. There's probably a better money line play there. But I'm with you. I think the gap between the Kent and Akron price, that to me is too far.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to what do we got next? All right, let's move on to the Mountain West Conference Tournament, which obviously will be in Las Vegas.
Is this the format the same as last year, right? Let me look.
Yeah.
No, same format as last year.
All right, looking at the Mountain West, which will take place in Las Vegas between Wednesday and Saturday. Top 5 teams get a bye. New Mexico is the 1 seed and the favorite at plus 250. 2 seed Colorado State, just a surge at the end of the season to get that 2. They're plus 350. The 3 seed Utah State is plus 330. So they're the second favorite. The 4-5 matchup, San Diego State versus Boise State, should be a grinder. Boise State's 4-1. San Diego State's plus 750. Not sure I get that. That's basically a coin flip game to me. And San Diego State, I believe, swept them in the regular season. And then you get into your super long shots. I ran this. I actually the the price that stuck out the most from a value perspective was UNLV at 22-1. Now,
did you give me home value there? What's your home court bump?
Small. Like
Yeah.
I did like half of what it normally would be. I always go back and forth with that. There's like, and if they play like, sometimes depending on who you play, there's going to be a lot of fans from that team too. Like there's a lot of Boise fans go, New Mexico fans go down there. So UNLV, now there's a lot of injuries in this league that are worth noting. Thomas for UNLV, he's their best offensive player. He's been out. Their defense is better without him. I mean, their defense is playing incredible. Now, granted, since February 1st, I think teams are only shooting 25% from three. But I do believe their defense is better without him, but their offense is not. Their upside is kind of limited. But I don't know. I don't know if I can get there with UNLV winning 4 games in 4 days. But I am out on Utah State, which is part of this. Who, if UNLV, they should beat Air Force, who was really, 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 really bad. If they do that, they don't exert a lot. You hope that they just wouldn't exert a lot of energy in that game. And, UNLV wants to play slower. They're not going to be in up and down games. But I'm out on Utah State. Their offense is great. I get it. But the league has figured out
I agree.
Their zone.
Other thing, UNLV real quick, Rishwain, non-contact leg injury, got hurt. He was terrific. He was kind of keyed their offense in without Thomas. If he's out too, I don't know how UNLV scores. Like if they were healthier up front.
I didn't even see that. When did that happen?
It was last game of the year. He came out of the tunnel. I think he had a brace.
Oh yeah,
I have an official update.
I forgot to write that down.
That's huge. I just missed that too. So Utah State could get a real nice cushy. I mean, again, it's not going to be easy cakewalk against UNLV on their home floor, but without that could be a pretty huge. I mean, especially against that zone, you're going to need some shooting, some spacing. Unless they grab 20 offensive rebounds. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's funny. New Mexico was the 6th seed last year, and I think we'd probably say last year's team was better than. I don't know. It's close, but just to contextualize how good this league was last year, how deep it was, and they did the 4-4, right? So I'm not as scared to back in Nevada or UNLV in this one. I think it's doable. Nevada was the one I was like, maybe Nevada can put it all together here. Older team, deep team, a team that could definitely, that wouldn't be completely pillaged by 4 games in 4 days. Debatably a good draw. You're playing a zombie team in Fresno. Maybe the Rams are a little bit playing above their skis. Nevada was a look for me. I'm still trying to shop at 30-1. I think I got to get like 50-1 though. It feels like a bad price.
Yeah, I think I would need at least 50 there. I mean, they're not fully healthy either. They lost.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Trey Coleman, who's probably their best defender. Foster's like a depth piece down low. So, yeah, I can't. I mean, the good thing is Nevada does want to play really slow, which helps if you're gonna, and they have some depth, which helps if you want to pull off the 4 games in 4 days. But I agree, this league is way down compared to last year. Fresno State, I think they're gonna. Fresno State, Nevada, that could be ugly. That could be an underlook.
Yeah, I agree with it. Yep.
Because I think Fresno State, which if you look at their tempo numbers, they want to play fast, but they're playing slower. I think overall, now they've played some slow teams, but since they've had this scandal and
they're all betting their unders, so they're definitely going to play slower, right? They're all shaving for unders. You can't have 75.
They also
positions.
have no depth.
No depth, so, exactly. And Wahlberg actually talked about that. I think Mitzi, he's like, we like to play fast. I did my whole dog and pony show about my pace and space this year, but he's like, we've had like 6 healthy bodies the whole year, so it's just hard to run when you got no depth.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're gonna have they have like more Sec now. He plays like 30 minutes and he's not going to score.
Yeah. Hawaii legend.
And
yep.
They only have 6. They have 6 guys now. It's right. I think they're only playing 6. That's their rotation.
I bet there might be another surprise scratch too. We saw it with NCAA, like out of nowhere, Camp Shell's just not playing like their best player, and they were down 20 in a hurry to Hofstra. I wonder if there might be another. I think Nevada smokes them. I think that's my first official bet of this first round. I think Nevada takes them to the woodshed. I know they're a little bit banged up, but I think they win handily. You're gonna have to lay a big number. Nevada laying margin's not exactly a fun notion, but I think they smoke Fresno.
Laying double digits with Nevada's. What a beautiful
It's
way
funny.
to spend a Wednesday
I laid
afternoon.
it. Remember when they played South Dakota State? I laid that with Nevada, and they beat I think they won the second half by 20. To think that you covered Nevada against South Dakota State, a good team, at this point is hilarious. So
that is funny.
Tough to trust.
So, yeah, I mean, looking at the rest of this practice, so the big storyline here is, I mean, San Jose State, Wyoming, neither of those teams, I don't think, are making a run. Do you believe in this New Mexico team? Like, are they going to be the exception of the rule in the Mountain West? I don't.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. I do.
You did last year too. You're going to be right eventually.
Yeah, I do. I like that there is. I like the front line, the complementary pieces that the Lobos have really rounded. Like to get the Phillip really starting to play well. I just love Dent so much. I just think he's a great, in this format, gets his guys good shots. I do like I think an easy draw too. I think they'll probably hammer San Jose or Wyoming, the back-to-back there. I don't know. I think the best value though is San Diego State. I'm with you. I don't get why that gap between Boise is as big as it is, and I'm still a believer in this Aztec team. They've been inconsistent because they've been young, but I still think they have upside. You're betting on upside if you're taking the future here, right? I think San Diego State, you have value because there is that dichotomy between they have not played as well in some spots. That's why we're getting a good price on them, but I think they can play. I think their upside's as high as their recent teams to some degree. So yeah, that's my look here on futures is the Aztecs.
This offense isn't as good, but yeah, I mean the other thing is that they, I've been impressed with Miles Heiden.
Yeah,
and he's played. Now the other thing is from an upside, like, so they're building more depth down those. They could get Guath back, who's like one of the most underrated rim protectors in college basketball. Like, he's not going to give you a ton offensively, but his defense at the rim kind of binds everything together for them. And Dutcher hinted that he could be back for this huge first game against Boise. So you could get him
his
back.
Offense. I think there's upside there you kind of saw spurts. He's not in total zero. BJ Davis is the key for me. This is a guy who is an eye test. Love him guy. He's starting to play better lately. I think he can. He's a guy who, if you're looking to find a team that's going to really go to a new level out of nowhere, you have to find probably a player or two that's going to get you there. And Davis, I think, is one of those guys.
Yeah, and the other thing is Boise State. They can't shoot, and you have to be able to shoot to beat San Diego State and their defense.
Yep, and they're just not. Boise State looks noticeably less athletic than that's the one when you watch Colorado State and Boise State. And Utah State for sure. That's where I think New Mexico and the Aztecs are they are categorically more athletic, and I think that really shows when they dial up the defensive pressure, and you've seen that at those home games. That's why I lean those two. I just think they're defensive. It's a clearly more athletic and more, more physical type of build.
Now, speaking of Colorado State, they're the hottest team in the league. They haven't lost since February 11th. They closed out the season with 7 straight wins, the most impressive over that streak. At UNLV by 8. They destroyed Utah State by 27 at home. And then they won at Boise by 10. And a lot of that has to do, they have a really good coach in Nico Medved. And he's kind of figured out this offense. And Nick Clifford is really good.
He's in the KenPom Player of the Year. He's top 10 in KenPom's Player of the Year. It's Trey Coffin-Wren, Mark Sears, Walter Clayton, Cooper Flagg, Dickinson, and then Nick Clifford is number 10. He's been crazy good. He's like an NBA player. So, they have some upside with him. He's really like a legit NBA guy.
Yes. Now, they're, so since February 1st, per Torvik. Colorado State's 27th in the country. Wow. Boise State's 47th. Utah State's 48th. New Mexico's 51st. San Diego State is 52nd. Okay. So basically, like, all those teams are 50th. And Colorado State's 27th. Now, they shot 43% from three over that stretch. 43. On the season, they're a 36% three-point shooting team. So they're a good shooting team. They're going to shoot a lot. But 43. So they've definitely been, I think, shooting a little bit over their heads. Their path would be, and I think that I don't know, the bubble is so weird this year because every bubble team keeps winning.
Yeah.
In the power conferences. Like, there's going to be some, I can't remember a year where this many bubble teams keep winning.
But you're right. If they beat Nevada, and I think Utah State would be quad 2. So that I think if they win 2 and get to the title game, I think they're officially a bubble team.
I don't think they can get in because
it's going to be tough though. I think
because
they're probably
the bubble is like, look at Oklahoma, like all these teams that keep winning. Arkansas.
Power conference bubble teams have have just a much longer runway of opportunities to get legit wins. So yeah,
and they've gotten them all over the past 2 weeks. So I think because of that, Boise's done. I don't think Colorado State can get it. I mean, they'll get in the discussion if they get to the conference tournament, but I actually think San Diego State might miss the tournament if they lose to Boise.
Yeah, no, they've been, again, too inconsistent. I think the youth of that team has did them in. And everyone, you can only market your Houston win so much, and you kind of have to, okay, well, what else have you done? But, they have been good against good teams. I think that's the best value. I think that's my official play. If I can get, I'm finding some 7, 6-1. I see a couple 7-1s. That's a small play for me. I think they match well with Boise. I think they beat New Mexico, and then they close it off on Saturday. No San Jose love, 100-1. Timmy Miles.
They were a covering machine for a while.
They were.
I can't get that. They did sweep Wyoming during the regular season. Wyoming's gonna have to make threes in that game. My boy Dante Allen's gonna have to get hot from 3.
Yeah,
and Agman, I mean, he has to play point now because I think Wills, who's bad, but he hasn't been playing. So yeah, this Wyoming team just not very good. I'm gonna say Colorado State wins it, but I can't get there at this number. But yeah, I don't mind the San Diego State look though. To be honest, from a price perspective,
6-7-1.
That's the route. 7-1. You can get.
Yeah, keep an eye on Goon though. I think that's. I mean, I think they can win without him, but man, that'd be such a boost.
There's a plus 750 out there for San Diego State, and Boise State's plus 425. That's a coin flip game to me. But yeah, getting Guath back would certainly be helpful. All right, now the last conference we'll talk about. The American, there's no odds out yet. There's games today. There's no bracket out yet. There's still, we don't even know the 4 seed yet. There's a couple other seeds. So I'm just going to get your high-level thoughts on this, and then I'll ask Jim and Kai theirs too, and then tomorrow on our show I'll mention anything that I like. By the way, quick plug, Elite 8 watch party in Chicago. Are you going to be there?
I believe so. This is on my calendar, which is the 29th. Right?
Yep.
29th.
Elite 8 watch party on Saturday. Myself.
I will be there.
Maddie and Kai, but definitely Jim.
I will be there.
We'll be doing an Elite 8 preview. Joe's on Weed Street. You got an RSVP. It is free. We rented out drinks. We'll watch the Elite 8 games. Hopefully win some money together. So RSVP there. You have to RSVP in order to come, but it's free. And I hope to see you all there on this Saturday. Well, we'll put a link for the RSVP in the description of this episode. So hope to see all my Chicago peeps there. Looking forward to seeing the Weave as well. I think I've been there, but I don't remember it. It was
Great
like,
bar. Kind of the
in my
Chicago
younger days.
locals know it well. Indiana bar kind of has like a concert stage venue at the back. I've seen plenty of cover band in my younger. Actually, Chance the Rapper made a surprise cameo appearance when his concert got canceled like 10 years ago. So yeah, a lot of good
Really?
Joe Zone Wave memories. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice. All right. So just quick thoughts on the American, where the favorite will be Memphis, but Memphis is an enigma. Like, you just,
Yeah.
how much do they care today? Like, they're already in the tournament, and like they could lose to anybody. I mean, they lost to Temple, they lost to Wichita, but they're going to be the top seed. They're going to be the favorite. The things I don't like about Memphis is you can get them on the offensive glass and they turn it over too much. Like, especially when they're not focused. They'll just turn it over a bunch.
Yep.
They'll be down like 19-6 in a game. And then they will start their comeback. They're very talented. Dane Dange has been amazing for them this year. And then PJ Haggerty is talking about microwaves. And then, you obviously got Colby Rogers, who can shoot, Tyrese Hunter. So, they have Jourdain, who's going to always get on the glass, make those other plays. So they have a lot of talent. And then you have a guy like Cisse who can come in, defend a little bit with his size. But I mean, I don't think I'm going to end up wanting to bet Memphis. Now their path is going to be pretty easy because the 4 seed might end up being, who's
Tulane?
The 4 seed going to be? Tulane?
Yeah, and so I think of the Tulane, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Wichita State, Temple, middle tier. I think Tulane scares me the least. As much as I like Ron Hunter, I just think their talent is less, just doesn't scare you, I guess. So yeah, I think they get it. And the 4 seed will probably play the 5 seed the way the bracket's set up. So there's a chance those two could, because I think like FAU or ECU, and Wichita State's been better down the stretch too, by the way. But I think ECU and FAU are kind of my quote unquote dark horses here. There could be some cannibalization in the middle of that bracket with the way it's set up right now. Because only Memphis, North Texas, UAB are locked into the 1, 2, 3 seed, 4 seed, and everything in the middle is kind of up for grabs. I do like for Memphis that they're going to avoid North Texas, UAB until the final. And I was looking at North Texas, but I just don't. It's a bummer that UAB does match up well with North Texas. Like, I think they've kind of proven that. They've blown leads against them, but I think they do match up well against them, agree with the way they make shots.
And they split.
Like tough shots.
They split during the regular season.
Remember, they blew that huge lead in the first one, right? I think they're up like 20 points first half, and they completely melted. So
yeah, but the second meeting could have went either way.
Right, yeah.
To be fair, will Massey play for North Texas? We might see today. I don't know because they play today. North Texas, per Torvik, since February 1st, I believe what I was looking at there, they've been the best team in the league. Yeah, 72nd. Memphis is 73rd. UAB is 89th. Wichita is 99th. Florida Atlantic's 109. So my question is, this is a bid stealer league. If UAB or North Texas or someone else wins it, stealing a bid. So on the surface, UAB, right? Like, hey, we're not going to turn the ball over. We can live on the offensive glass. Like, they have a lot of offensive talent, but they got their defense is not good this year. They got shredded by Memphis in both meetings. They gave up 100 and then 88, and Big Yaks Lendenborg, their best player, he wasn't really as effective as he usually is. He got into foul trouble, struggled with the physicality of Danger a little bit.
Yep.
So
he was in foul trouble both games. That's why I think the whistle was huge in both Memphis matchups, right? If you're kind of playing out, yeah, huge. He got 4 in the first one, gave up 100, 4 in the second, gave up 88.
He got 4 in the second with like 18 minutes to go in the game.
Yep. Yeah, and their defense without him really, really leaky. I think for a team that we perceive as athletic, and Andy Kenny's sounds beside him. He's like, I don't understand why we can't guard people. Like, we are an athletic team. We still cannot guard the ball. So they have issues on the perimeter. And if he's not in there as sort of the backstop, they have real issues. And that's not even considering just the dominance that Dane Dange has been on lately and how unguardable he is in the post. Crazy.
Yeah. So I keep going back and forth. Like, who do I think would have a better chance of beating Memphis? It's like UAB is not going to turn them over. Probably not going to get stops. They're going to go up and down with them though, and they have a great offense. And like, do I think that they have a better shot of winning a shootout than I do North Texas, whose offense is nowhere close to as good as UAB's, and the upside isn't there, but their defense is much, much better.
Yep.
And they actually can force Memphis into turnovers, take advantage of Memphis's issues there. And they're going to grind the game down to a halt. Does that make... And, like, that's not how Memphis really wants to play. Memphis prefers to play up and down faster. In their only meeting this year, it was close. North Texas lost at Memphis 68-64. Who do you think has a better chance of beating Memphis?
I think I slightly into North Texas. But what does that mean in terms of value and betting? I don't know. We'll see what the prices are. I think the name I keep going back to is East Carolina. I think this team has some Memphis kryptonite in them. They played them very tight at Memphis back on January 11th. They're physical. They're older. They have some talent. Schwartz will mix in some zone. I don't know if I love Schwartz as a in-game adjuster, but he does mix and match defenses. Will play some zone, and they've been kind of a bad victim of some opponent shooting. Like their interior defense has been very good. They've just teams have made shots against them. They're a very
no
good
one
possession.
Can miss a three against them.
Right, and they're one of those kind of shot volume darlings. I think they can run hot. I think that's sort of the team I'm probably looking at as a dark horse here. It might be a Pirates slide for me when the official futures board comes up on this one. We'll see where they're slotted. Probably should be again. They're not going to get that. I think I'd like them to be on the bottom half of the bracket as opposed to the top, but we'll see. I think they could fall in that 6 or 7 line probably as it shakes out now. But yeah, that's my dark horse team.
Yeah, the only problem with that, yeah, I mean they have talent they have some talented guys. Felton who can just go off at it any day. Walker, I mean they definitely are. And
I think those their JUCO dudes, Woodard and LeBeau, have played better lately. I think we've like a lot of these JUCO guys struggle early on. They're kind of like freshmen. We should treat them more like freshmen. But lately, LeBeau and Woodard are both starting to play well. I think that's kind of given them some depth. And CJ Walker, I can't believe he's still in college. Has been like this, has been awesome, inconsistent, but really good when he's on.
Yeah, so they can get the 5.
They are currently, they're a game back at Tulane for 4. So Tulane's in 4th at 11-6. East Carolina's 10-7. I mean, they could get the 4 with a tiebreaker maybe, but I think 5 is probably where they're going to fall. So that would put them on the upper half of the bracket in Memphis's part, and they would get the winner of Rice, Charlotte in the play-in spot. So
if
the 4 would probably be Tulane. So
Tulane plays UAB. If Tulane loses and ECU lose, ECU would end up getting the 6, which I wouldn't like. Because how I'm looking at this, and again, I'll talk about this tomorrow. ECU has no bench.
Yeah, that's a good point.
None.
Yep.
0. So the path becomes important when they're going to have to win 4 games in 4 days. Getting the 4 would obviously be ideal, but if you get the 5 and you get to play, Charlotte, Rice, then Tulane, instead of having to play like North Texas or UAB in the second round, that might be more ideal. But I don't mind a long shot on the ECU depending on the price. So I'll get Jim's and Kai's thoughts as well. Once the odds and bracket come out, like I said, I'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. Let's quick recap. Just give out your pick for who you think wins it and and then if you think there's any value. ACC, I'll say Duke. If I had to play anyone, it would be Clemson. Louisville might not be at full strength. I think Clemson is better than Louisville. And if there's anyone that's going to beat Duke, obviously you're going to have to get hot from three and make your threes, which Clemson's capable of doing. And so is Louisville. But you are going to have to slow the game down, which Clemson will do in limit possessions. But I'll say Duke gets their revenge on Clemson in the championship.
Yeah, I think Duke wins it. No official value plays here. Maybe a nickel on Georgia Tech or a nickel on Wake. But literally no more than a nickel. I don't think there's anything worth betting serious money on either outside of Duke.
The MAC, I think Kent wins it. I'm going to shop around. I also compare money on rollover scenarios. Keep an eye on the Action Network app. But I think Kent wins it. That's my horse. You agree?
I'm with you. In first round, I think you're looking at. I did consider EMU. I had that first round Miami EMU matchup. I think Miami lays an egg in that one. I'm going to look at EMU as a first round flyer there. But big picture, future, definitely going to bet Kent. Just going to try and find the best price. And I need to probably confirm the money line rollover is not going to be better off. But I think 3-1 that's there. Hopefully 4-1 show is probably unlikely.
4-1, not no way.
Yeah, no way, right?
Yeah, and I will be betting Kent if they play Akron. And Mountain West, I think we both agree, price perspective, San Diego State. I think is
that's
probably
the official one for me. Aztecs, get well soon, Goon. We might need you, but not banking on it, but it'd be a nice bonus, nice luxury.
And then American TBD, ECU potential long shot for some couch change. And I'm still wrestling, and I'm going to need to see the bracket and the odds. I ultimately, just from what I watched, I think North Texas would have a better chance of beating Memphis. Doesn't mean UAB can't, but just with their defense and then the way that they play.
Much better coach
style.
team, too.
Yes.
Way better coach. Just a team you trust more to execute if it's close late. Yeah.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for us. Well, we will have 8 more coming up in parts 6 and 7 I'll be doing with Jim and Kai later this afternoon, so make sure you check those out. Thanks to Maddie for joining me. Thanks to our producer on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. 5-star review, they really help us out. It's the best time of the year. Enjoy the madness. Let's cash some futures, cash some winners. See you hopefully in Chicago. Catch y'all later. Cheers.